Hello, hello, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, I'm Erin. I'm a hairstylist by day and knitwear designer some days and selfish knitter other days. Today's video, I thought I would tell you a little bit about myself and then go over a few frequently asked questions that I get on my Instagram just so that you guys can get to know me a little bit better. So like I already said, and as you can see by my channel name, my name is Erin. I'm 30 years old, turning 31 in a couple of weeks. I live in Alberta, Canada, and I work full-time as a hairstylist. I've been doing hair for about a year full-time. I've been doing it in total for 2 years if you count hair school, or my entire life if you count doing hair on myself. My hobbies include, but are not limited to, photography, which I also studied in college right when I finished high school, running, longboarding, being a pretty horrible plant mom. I rely on my boyfriend to keep all my plants alive, knitting, and crocheting. I learned to crochet back in high school from my mom and my aunt. My first project that I made was a granny square blanket that I never ended up finishing for my boyfriend at the time. This is also how I learned that I absolutely despise making blankets. I also hate making scarves, which, let's face it, they're just long, skinny blankets. So yeah, I crocheted basically since I was 15, and then I taught myself how to knit about 4 years ago. So whether I like knitting or crocheting more, this honestly depends on my mood and the season. I tend to crochet more in the summer and spring season, and then I ended up knitting more in the fall and the winter. I am 1,000 times slower at knitting, so if I want to do something fast, I would tend to pick up crochet more. But I do prefer the drape of knitting better when it comes to things like sweaters, hats, scarves, which we already know I don't like to make. I tend to like the ease of building on shapes and kind of like making it up as you go, if that makes any sense, with crocheting. So that's why when I'm making something like a little tank top or a dress that has a lot of different shapes fit together, then I'll tend to lean towards crochet. And if I'm making something that the shape is pretty consistent piece to piece, like a sweater, I will lean towards knit just because the drape is a little bit softer and flowier in that sense. So I started off making garments by just kind of making up things as I went. I really don't like reading patterns. I didn't when I started working on garments, and I still don't to this day. I kind of just like making it up as I go, or I plan it in advance. But still, I just find it more fun to fit it together as I go versus reading it off a piece of paper. I don't know. It's less creative and more instructional that way, I guess. I think that my background in art kind of helps me with this because, and by this I mean designing patterns or making it up as I go, because I kind of see clothes as a bunch of shapes fit together, kind of like making a puzzle, I guess, and just like kind of building on top of itself. So yeah, when I look at a piece of knitwear, I kind of look at it as like panels of material versus individual stitches. And yeah, I really like kind of just fitting that together and seeing what I can come up with creatively. I started writing patterns just because I was getting requests for them constantly, so I figured I would try it out, and that's the truth, no other reason. If you want to get into designing patterns, I would say that start by being very clear on why you want to do it and why you craft in the first place, and then write that down. If it's for money, that's great. If it's to share your creativities with others, that's great. Whatever the reason, just remind yourself of that reason when things are getting frustrating and you don't want to do all the behind the scenes work and things are getting tough. It'll kind of help you keep going. Also, a good reason to do this is because if you're doing it for the art, it can be very easy to get sucked into just making things because that's what's popular, or you think that's what's going to sell, or whatever reason, and not because it's what you want to make. And if you're doing it for the money, then that kind of helps you find motivation to like look into what is trendy and what would sell and whatnot. I mean, if you're coming at it from different angles, you're going to approach it differently. Secondly, make sure that you make time for selfish projects on top of your work projects. Not everything that you make needs to be made for the purpose of it being for sale or the purpose of sharing it with other people. Sometimes you can lose a spark of creativity and the joy of making if you are making everything, or if it feels like everything that you're doing is a job. And then thirdly, try and stay organized. That is for sure my biggest downfall, especially when I'm doing this stuff. And now that my boyfriend's helping me with it, he hates it because I'm very disorganized. I get asked this question a lot, so I try and include a little snippet in at the beginning of each of my videos to kind of explain my inspiration for that particular piece, because honestly, I get inspiration from all over. I get it from what is trending in fashion. Sometimes I'll be walking down the street. This happened a couple of weeks ago. I saw someone wearing a jacket. I already kind of had like most of the plan in my head of what I was going to make, but I saw it and I was like, that is the exact jacket that I'm planning to make. Or I mean, like similarly. I cut things out of magazines. I keep a little scrapbook of like color, texture, shape inspiration so that I can go back and look at it. Sometimes music or movies give me a little spark of an idea too. So I like to draw my little flashes of inspiration in my scrapbook so that I can go back and look at them, because sometimes I think of something and if I don't write it down and don't keep track of it and the time passes, then when I'm having a creative block, I forget all of the amazing things that I thought of before. So if I keep them all in a nice little scrapbook form, then it's a lot easier to just like go back and look when I'm having a little bit of a block or when I want to remind myself of something that I at one point was like, yeah, this is cool. If you follow me on Instagram or even probably watching this videos, you might be able to pick up that my favorite yarn is the Pima cotton from We Are Knitters. It's a medium weight yarn, so it's great for so many projects. When I am picking up my crochet hook or my knitting needles, and a lot of the things that I plan on designing all end up being in the 5 to 5.5 millimeter hook or needle range, and that is exactly the range that this yarn was made for, so it's perfect for that. It's so soft and it's super durable. I machine wash all of my garments that I make with it constantly, and yeah, they just stay in great condition. It also comes in a really great variety of colors, and that's another thing that I really love about it, because as you guys can also probably tell, I really love making things in color. And no, this post was not sponsored by them. So both of my favorite things, speaking of the Pima Cotton by We Are Knitters, both of these projects were made with that yarn. So the first one is probably these daisy shorts. The shorts are just cute and fun, and I don't normally make little extra pieces and sew them on after. One, because it's super tedious, and two, because it's super tedious. That's actually really the only reason, because they ended up being super cute. But for that reason, they're different than anything else that is in my closet that I have made. So I really like that about them. And second, the dress. I'm just really proud of that one. It was a huge project. I planned it out from start to finish. I drew sketches, I picked out all of the colors, and I honestly, when I started making it, was not sure if it was going to turn out how I wanted it to turn out. And at the end of the day, it was better than I could have imagined. So I'm just really happy and proud of the results of that one. That's it for today's video. Thanks for joining me today, guys. I hope you learned a little bit about me, and yeah, I hope you stay tuned for what's going to happen in the future. Make sure, if you're not subscribed already, that you hit the subscribe button and give me a thumbs up. I'll see you next time. I knew that burp was coming.